I'm joined by Coach Mike Gundy from Oklahoma State. Coach, welcome, and your thoughts about the upcoming season.
Thank you. It's an exciting time for all of us. I was thinking flying down here this morning that just how we've evolved at Oklahoma State and the culture that we've created with the young men, and how fun it is for myself and our staff. The guys that were on the plane, they've been such great leaders for us, and we've evolved into something really special at Oklahoma State. As I look back over the year, the season, not only on the field, but our team GPA was a 2.9 this last semester. Our young people are volunteering time in the community. It's just a culture that's something that maybe I didn't even expect we could create at Oklahoma State, and it's brought a lot of excitement into this season. And we're thrilled to be here, and we're excited about getting started in a couple weeks.
Okay, we got a question on the front, and then we've got one about halfway back on the aisle. Wendell, put your hand up again. So there we go. Catch Wendell first, then we'll go ahead. That's fine. We'll do one on the front, then we'll get to Wendell.
Hey, Mike. Tim Griffin with diehards.com and the Cox Media Group. Now you're the coach with the most continuous tenure in the Big 12. How does that make you feel, and how have you changed maybe from the coach we saw who came in here a few years back?
Well, I'm excited about it. I've been around a long time and have a long history in not only the Big 12, but the old Big 8 in this part of the country, and so I feel like from that standpoint I can bring a lot to the conference. We've been very lucky. We've had great camaraderie amongst the coaches in this league, and I look forward to that. But I'm a much different person and coach than I was 13 years ago. I would say patience has played a big role in that, and over a period of time I've learned to have a lot of fun. And as I'd mentioned in my opening statement, I'm really excited about being a part of the team and getting started here in about 10 days.
Got a question on the outside.
Mike, Wendell Barnhouse, Fan Rag Sports. The Big 12 is going to go to a collaborative replay situation, which obviously probably would have fixed your situation with Central Michigan last year. What have the coaches been told about how that replay system is going to work, and do you think it's a benefit to make that change?
Well, we've been trendsetters in a lot of different ways at Oklahoma State. We went to a 14 playoff, maybe based on what happened with our team years ago. And unfortunately, we're going to maybe a different replay system based on what happened to our team a year ago. I believe in the replay. I think it's better. We want to get it right. I know it takes a little bit of time, but I think any time that we can go back and look and do the very best we can to make sure that it's correct and fair, I think it's positive for football.
Question on the front right.
Mike Hayden Barber with Pistols Firing. Hey.
Okay.
With Darius Curry moving to safety, what does that do for your cornerback position, and what's new at that position, and what confidence do you have in those young guys?
Well, we don't have anything new from what you guys were aware of after spring. Adrian's come in, our fifth-year transfer, that we're expecting him to contribute. In most cases, we're going to play with 5 defensive backs in this league, and we have to have some guys that are somewhat versatile. But that is one of the positions that's lacking experience. And as a coach, you're always concerned about that. But we have some guys that have been in the program a while. And in moving Ramon to safety, it was a little bit of a risk from an experience standpoint. But we're expecting some of our younger players who don't have a lot of a game experience to really be productive as the season progresses.
Got another question on the front.
Hey Coach, Kyle Porter with Pistols Firing. I'm curious, you've had a lot of success for a long time, 12 years of it now. What do you point to as the most important ingredient in kind of your formula for that sustained success when maybe you don't have the resources or the money that some of these other top schools have?
It's changed over the years. At first, when I got this job, I guess I wasn't smart enough to realize how hard it was. So we just never stopped. We moved forward. We tried to make the best decisions with the resources we had. We tried to be on the cutting edge, not only X's and O's wise, but from the science behind football, different ways to do things, cutting back on practices, not having full-scale tackle practices or scrimmages in the fall and spring. But then as we matured as a program, I realized the most important thing that we've done is we've created a culture at Oklahoma State for success in all different areas. We have some structure. We have certain ways that we expect our players to operate, to be a part of our team, and that we're all lucky that we're here, myself included, and that Oklahoma State football is by far bigger than any one person in our program. And we live by that. We're very disciplined. We're very structured. Accountability is important. We're unselfish. We respect our opponents, but we don't fear anybody. And I think that we've stayed with that, and we've created a culture where players understand success.
Question on the left front.
Yeah, Kirk Bowles from the Austin American Statesman. You know, I've always admired your hairstyle. I wonder what the value of, you could put a value on, you know, your time with Barry Melrose and national perception and how much that helps Oklahoma State. And you're going to keep the mullet forever.
Well, I actually cut it a couple weeks ago. As I mentioned earlier, it was at ponytail potential at one time. And so I either had to go with that or trim it a little bit. I decided to trim it and probably let it grow. The players, they like to have fun. I like to have fun with them. I'm going to turn 50 here in a couple weeks, but I feel great. I'm energetic, and so I often have thought about what you just said. The time on ESPN at 10 o'clock with Melrose, all the different social media hits that we've had. We have a terrific social media and media relations department at Oklahoma State, and they're on the cutting edge. They're thinking all the time, and so. I think that would be a good subject for marketing majors, graduate students to look into. But I'm going to say that the dollar figure is somewhere in the millions for the amount of time that we've had on the air for that. And that I was very fortunate to get a new contract and should probably get an extension and a raise for that free marketing for the university.
We've got a question on the front, and then we're going to go to the back.
Hey, Coach Sean J. Roger, diehards.com. Obviously, you have a returning quarterback, you have a returning 1,000-yard receiver, you have a returning 1,000-yard rusher. How good do you think this offense can be, and how do you evaluate success for this offense?
They should be very good. We're fortunate that we have an experienced quarterback that our team trusts. They have a lot of respect for him. He's played injured throughout his career. He's unselfish. We have a group of wideouts that are certainly the best as a group that I've ever been around. They're unselfish. They understand there's not enough footballs to go around. We're going to do the best we can to keep everybody involved. Some of them are going to draw safety over the top. Some of them could draw a little bit of double coverage. We have to go to the other guys. We've evolved as a running team again in the last year with Justice. We need a backup there. And what you mentioned is a really good point, that, you know, how do we measure the success? We need to be effective and score points and be productive in the red zone from a touchdown standpoint, and not turn the ball over. When we've had success at Oklahoma State, we've been very good in turnover margin. And I think that's really important for our football team. But I don't see any reason to hide that on offense we should be really good. And our players should expect that. They've worked hard and be demanding, and should play very well early in the season.
Question on the aisle, about 3/4 of the way back.
Hey, Coach. Nick Kruger, Rivals.com. Just from a recruiting standpoint, obviously you guys have been successful the past couple of years, but maybe generally speaking, not necessarily always going head-to-head for those top tier guys. And you come away with guys like James Washington. Is there something you can kind of pinpoint as far as a recruiting strategy that helps you find those guys a little bit more often?
That's another area that's changed over the years. We go after all of these so-called top-rated guys in the country. A lot of times they don't show interest in us. So we continue to migrate toward young men that love football, that are committed to something other than themselves. We want to be committed to our team. We've done some research in the last few years and found that football players that think really fast, game day savvy, really cerebral players have been and provided a lot of success for us. So we want to know if football is really important to the young man. We want to know if they'll be unselfish. We want to know if they're really interested in getting an education. The way that the GPA and the eligibility requirements have changed over the last few years that I think is very positive. A young man has to be serious about getting an education in college. If not, they're not going to make it. And so when you tie all those things together, and if we think that they will fit into our culture, then they're going to be a good pick for us. And it's interesting, if you look at the draft last year, and my numbers will be just a little bit off, but the highest number of players that were in last year's draft were 3-star players coming out of high school. So now you could also play the percentage game. There's fewer 5-stars. But what that means is there's going to be a lot of players out there that are good enough to play at a high level. So can we get them? We've had some success getting them. And if we do, can we develop them and put them into our culture, and will they have success? That's the direction we've gone in recruiting over the last few years.
Question on the rear left.
Jason Elmquist, Stillwater News Press. Obviously, everyone knows about James Washington. Jalen McCluskey also named to the Blitnikoff Award list this morning. How do you utilize him differently than James? Obviously, in the run game, it seems like, but how different of a wide receiver is he than James Washington?
They have some similarities, but they're different. James is such a terrific deep threat. We have thrown the ball to McCluskey some down the field, but his elusiveness, he's a guy that's hard to really two below if you had him in a phone booth. Not that there's phone booths anymore, but he's very elusive in the middle of the field and has great football savvy. Very cerebral, very intelligent. So we can use him in multiple positions. We can move him around a lot, and we ask him to do some things that we haven't asked other inside receivers to do in our system. So James is so good on the deep ball that people have to get off of him. It allows him to get a lot of 10, 12, 14-yard throws. McCluskey's really good on our underneath stuff and our quick throws where he can use his ability to make people miss in space.
Question on the aisle right.
Hey, Mike, Brian Baldinger, Fox Sports.
How are those knees?
Knees are good, Mike. Thanks. So I went back and I was watching your bowl game last year against Colorado, and two things jumped out. One, you really were a 2 tight end set by the end of the season, whether one tight end was an H-back in the backfield. And I was surprised by how much you did that. And then secondly, to James Washington and what everybody's talking about, I mean, this second-round pick of the Cowboys tried to cover him in that bowl game and ran him right off the field. He couldn't do anything to him. He's NFL ready right now, and I was just wondering, in the pantheon of great wide receivers that you've had at Oklahoma State, where's James at right now?
He's up there. At some point, I use this comparison a lot. My sons, I have a 12 and 15 that are with me at the house. I have a 20-year-old that's in college. The 12 and 15 will argue all the time over who's better, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. Well, at some point, they're both really good. And you have the same conversations with other great players. And James Washington is up there with the Des Bryants and the Blackmans and the Rashawn Woods, the guys that have been terrific football players. I think James is just scratching the surface. James came from a terrific community out in West Texas, a small community, but when he got to our place, it was dramatically different than what he'd ever been exposed to. So he's had 3 years. I think the next 10 years for him, really the sky's the limit. For 2 reasons. 1, because he's just starting to develop. 2, he's got a terrific attitude, and he's unselfish, and he loves to play the game of football, and he's tough. So he ranks really high up there, in our opinion, with the wideouts that have been at Oklahoma State.
Did you want to answer the other part of the question?
About 2 tight ends? You know what? We're going to miss those guys, 47 and 86. And I like that you mentioned that because they were really good college football players for us. And we did a lot of different things with them. We ran the ball effectively with them. And to fulfill that cowboy back position is something that we have to find out in the next 3 weeks because we need somebody that can play that role. Maybe not to the level that we had last year with those 2 guys, but that's a very important part of what we did on our offense and what we need to do in the future. It allows us to run the ball much more effective.